Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode number 8 of Merritt in the Morning.
And it's been too long.
It has been. We started this in March.
Yeah, but no, it's been too long since we've done this.
Oh, that's
We
true.
do it
It's
every
been-
other
yeah, we're
Thursday.
2 weeks. We were with Mayor Chris Jensen from Noblesville. So
And we'll have Abdul today.
we will. So looking forward to that. We're coming to you, if you're watching on Facebook, live from Cafe Audrey's at beautiful Fort Harrison. Open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. Open for
I had an egg sandwich last time I was here.
oh,
I mean, it's very good.
their things are spectacular. So thank you for Cafe Audrey's for hosting us. Also, thank you to Alpsbrow Beer. Jim, you might not know this, but Alpsbrow Beer is now available at the Lawrence Farmers Market.
I'll have to retweet that.
every
When you put that
Thursday.
tweet up,
I
I'll
will-
retweet it.
I will put it up. So
I
order-
share, I post, I retweet.
you are a sharer. So yeah, so Porter Books and Bread carries Alpsbrow, and they have they're a vendor over at the Fort Wayne, the Lawrence Farmers Market, and they're selling Alpsbrow.
And when is that?
So that is Thursday nights. It is from 4 till 7. So if you're watching this live or watching it today as we're recording this,
So it's
it'll be
tonight.
tonight. And that's every Thursday through mid-October, I think.
Wow, I've never experienced a farmer's market that's during the week, so that's a nice opportunity. I know Carmel and the rest of them, the different cities and towns around central Indiana have theirs on Saturday morning, so that's something different.
It is.
Nice.
It actually gets a good turnout. They've done a really nice job. Corey Korn and Dee Maurice Arietta, I probably butchered your name. Sorry, Dee Maurice. But regardless, Dee Maurice is in charge of the farmers market, and they do it over here at the Lawrence Cultural Campus, right behind Heartland Film and the theater at the Fort. It's great. They probably have 40 vendors, and they've got live music that goes with it.
The spirit and the hum of Lawrence, and you know, Mayor Collier has done an outstanding job, and Dave Hoffman will succeed him and be a terrific mayor himself. But hi, how are you?
Hi, Tammy.
Tammy, the owner of Cafe Audrey, we are so lucky to be here. The hum, the spirit of Lawrence has increased, has grown so much in the last 6 or 7 years.
It has.
And I think our audience needs a reminder, if they don't know, about cruising, about the car show in Lawrence. And I have not been to it, but it sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. So just for those of you who don't know, this is Jim Merritt. His name's on the show. I'm Brad Klopfenstein. We do this about every other Thursday, live from Cafe Audrey's, live on Facebook, and then we record it. So if you want, in fact, I did this the other day. You can, on a smart TV, you go to YouTube, put in Merritt in the Morning, pull it up, and watch us in 55 inches of high def glory.
Do you think anybody wants that large glory?
If you have an 80-incher and you're watching us, send us a picture. I want a selfie. So anyhow, so the cruise in. So every Wednesday night, and I started this during COVID, and this was, you know, we were told the distance.
As president of the Lawrence Chamber.
Yes, so I'm president of the Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce, which I've been doing that for about 3.5 years. And Lawrence seems to have really ramped up. I don't know that there's a coincidence.
I think the energy is due in part to you.
So, well, thank you. So, but anyhow, so when COVID started, all these car shows got canceled. And I was like, well, that's dumb. It's by definition,
Outside.
They're outside. You're at least a car length apart. So I started doing one in the heart of Lawrence, just because I knew there was a bunch of people with cars who wanted to get them out. And it was a pretty good success. So weather permitting, we just started doing it every Wednesday, and we did it over on Lot and Loop for the first 3 summers. This year, we moved it over to VFW Post 7119 on Lee Road, and it has exploded. So it's
How many
nice.
cars do you usually have?
Last night, we probably had 35. We've had as many as 50.
I'm intrigued because I love cars. What's the most unusual car that you can go and check out? In your mind, what's the coolest car?
So there's a couple Chevelles that come on a fairly regular basis. Phil Soares has a 70 Chevelle SS convertible,
No,
and it is gorgeous. It's red, and he takes great care of it. He's
it's
had
probably
it.
fast too.
Yeah. In fact, he just put a new engine in it over, I think last fall. So it's, I'm sure it's fast.
So that's a pretty good example of what you see.
It is. Now, one time, the Boyle Racing people, if you're familiar with them, so they renovated a 1935 Diamond T hauler and then a Maserati Roadster. They brought those two out one time. So every once in a while, we'll get some crazy stuff that'll show up. And it doesn't cost anything to attend. So it's just bring what you
what's
got.
the time of it?
So
It's on Wednesday nights?
Wednesday nights, we run at 4 until dark. But get this, so the VFW, they are open to the public and all of our attendees. They've got $2 beers on Wednesday. And I mean, it's good beers, including Alpsbrow, by the way. So you can get $2 Alpsbrow at the VFW, and they're $3 every other day, which is still a great deal.
And anybody can go.
Anybody can go.
Okay.
Yeah, they got, I think their cheeseburgers are like $5.75. It's a nice big burger. So it's a heck of a deal.
And what's the address on Lee Road?
I think it's 6575 Lee Road.
It's
so
you can't miss it.
no. So yeah, it's just south of Fall Creek Road. So as you're going kind of northeast, why Jim, for some reason, our YouTube feed wants to give us weather updates. No, thank you. We are not to the point of we don't need a weatherman.
No, it's gonna be a beautiful weekend though, I think.
It will be.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so the VFW, it is a Chamber of Commerce weather. I tell people when you're a Chamber of Commerce director, you get about a dozen days where I can just call Brian Wilkes and say, Brian, I need a good day. And boom, there we go. So it's, yeah, it's fun.
There are plenty of events in Lawrence, and it sounds like the cruising is a lot of fun. It sounds like the farmers market, which is not on a weekend, which is nice because you probably attract a lot of people from neighbors in the fort of which you live.
Yes. Oh yeah. It gets packed. Now somebody's texting me. Do you think it's somebody watching the show saying, oh my gosh, it looks great? Nope, it's not. Somebody that's cruising talking to cars.
I see. Mr. Lawrence.
I love it. So I live 3 blocks from where we're recording this. And
Cafe Audrey.
Yeah, Cafe Audrey. So what you're looking at here, this is an old motor pool building, or I think it's probably a stable when this was first built as well.
Tammy, what is, please have a seat.
Have a seat.
Tell us about the history of the Cafe Audrey building of which we are sitting.
Okay, yeah, originally it was the blacksmith shop on the original fort.
I see.
And the buildings right across the way where Fitzgerald's and the offices are, those were the stables.
Okay.
I see.
There's a picture up there that I'll show you that shows, it was taken like in 1910, and I'm told the building was built in 1903 with the original fort.
Of course.
And there's a picture of them with the mules all lined up.
That's fun.
And it is funny when you think about it, 1903, there were no cars, there were no Jeeps, there were no trucks. So everything they did was mules and donkeys and wagons, and the army was a cavalry. So there was lots of horses and
this fort has so much history to it. And I can remember when I was going to a meeting in the early 1990s, and in the fort, it was 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was driving through the fort very carefully, very slowly. And so all of a sudden, there's an individual in a uniform comes in front of my car and says, halt. And then a battalion, some sort of group of soldiers marched right by. And it was the start of the Gulf War. And I knew something was going on. And so this place has served incredible purpose since Teddy Roosevelt was president.
And I can't begin to tell you how many people come in here that are veterans that served, at this base. That was so when I was here, at one time, I think in the 70s, this was the uniform distribution side. They said they would come in one door and
in this facility
right here. Yeah. Of course, it's no need for a blacksmith shop anymore in the 70s. So came in and it was, they would get to pick up their uniforms.
Mhm.
And some other people have said there's been other things as well, so. Hello.
Abdul, we are live right now.
I'm gonna give you my seat, Abdul.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Tammy.
Tammy is the proud owner of.
Yes, she's the owner. She was giving us a history of the building and just the fort in general. Morning, sir.
How's it going, my friend?
Good. Thanks for joining
Long
us.
time no see.
I know, tell me about it.
Yeah, you
my-
guys already saw each other once this morning,
Yeah,
right?
my stop between State House happenings and Crown Point this morning.
You go to Crown Point?
Yeah, I got an eviction hearing.
Oh,
You're getting evicted?
No, I'm doing a hearing.
Uh,
I'm not a friend.
So, thank you. You're watching, Merritt in the morning. Let me, go
we're
back
at
to our.
Cafe Audrey.
Yeah, we're at Cafe Audrey, a beautiful Fort Harrison,
And who was our sponsor?
our sponsor. So here's our Merritt in the morning slide. Abdul, you got slides.
All right.
We are high tech. So oops, lost it. Sharing stopped. I think it's because I know what I did. I went blasting right past us. So let me pull these back up. Abdul, you know this, I'm sure, from your days in radio. It is hard when you're the producer and you're also trying to talk.
When you're producing the show, talking to the guests
Yes.
and running the board.
Yes, so we're coming to you live from Cafe Audrey at beautiful Fort Harrison, Lawrence, Indiana, brought to you by Alps Brow Beer, just because we can.
Who says you got to go to the Alps to enjoy the Alps?
That's exactly right. So, Abdul, you are known to, I'm sure, all of our viewers. You have been a political pundit in Indiana now, Indianapolis specifically, for 20 years.
And
So-
10 years before that in Springfield, Illinois.
Yes, so you know politics. This year, you went from being the reporter to the reported.
I
And
still got the first question.
Yeah. It's easy, yeah. You host your own press conferences, ask your own questions.
Well, not only that, Club, he's beloved.
Oh, he is the one.
So it's a really interesting situation when somebody that is running for office, that's from the media, that everybody knows and everybody loves, and being a candidate for office, especially mayor of Indianapolis, is such a spotlighted. I mean, the focus on that individual is very intense, and so we all watched from the cheap seats, trying to help any way we can, and watched you, Abdul, sometimes succeed, sometimes struggle. And I think one of the reasons why I was looking forward to having you on is for you to talk to our audience about that run and what you learned about yourself, and any regrets, any, how do you look at it? What, a month out, so 5 weeks out?
Can I put an asterisk on that? You are beloved by all except for one attorney general.
And probably one Secretary of State too.
Okay.
That'll be in the cheat sheet this weekend.
Get your cheat sheet subscription, by the way, if you don't have it already.
You should.
Yeah, no, it was interesting because I thought about running for mayor. Well, what really got me started was I always felt.
Why didn't you do it in 19?
For those of you who don't know, Jim was the nominee in 19.
For lack of a better term, I really didn't think about running for mayor until like 2020. We had the George Floyd riots downtown, because it was actually 3 years ago this week when all that happened, because it came to my Facebook feed. Just saw like all the people in the circle, which was fine, but then they started rioting and then started burning buildings and trash cans, and downtown was boarded up, and IMPD had their hands tied, like where was the mayor and all this. So it really got me to thinking. Then about November, it's like, oh, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. So I had to get all my ducks in a row, like had to deal with all my media stuff, get the wife's permission, blessing, consent. You figure out the phrase that you want to use. So the funny thing was, actually, I think I told you this, Brad. I don't think I told you, Jim. I asked her, could I run for mayor at her surprise birthday party? It was her 50th.
I was there.
Yes,
You knew the combination of the line.
a little bit of alcohol, all her friends, 50th
Yep.
birthday party, surprise. Like, honey, can I run for mayor? She's like, oh, fine, just keep your crap out of my house. Like, yes, dear. Like, I'll come up. Let me keep it in the spare room where I do all my legal work. Okay, fine. So we put the team together. It was just me, Megan Umlauf, who ran Kelly Mitchell's convention campaign.
A really talented political.
Yeah. Norma Unzer, who did my fundraise for, she worked for state party. So it was just literally just three of us, just kind of doing everything. And we came in second place, raised about 100 grand and some change. But we lost to Jefferson Shreve, who's a good guy, but Jefferson also spent $2 million, which is unheard of in a municipal primary. I mean, to give you an idea of what his presence was, like I have a Hulu streaming service. There's an old show called Picket Fences, which was on like 30 years ago. I used to watch all the time. You sit down to watch it, I see a Jefferson Shreve ad. I'm like, okay, this is now we've crossed the Rubicon here.
Yeah.
But it took $2 million to beat us in the primary. So my thought was, hey, it's like playing basketball against Michael Jordan and losing by 3 points.
That's true.
And it was a lucky free throw.
Well, it's a commitment, and you lived it, what, 6 months? And what is interesting to me is the commitment that you have to put forward, because all the different opportunities you have to make money and have a career, you were able seemingly to be able to put that on hold and go back to it. But who knew if that would actually be there or not? And so the risk of versus the reward, it was something that you had to really tussle with.
Like I said, thank God I settled a big employment discrimination lawsuit between all that time, because that kind of got us through the whole deal. Because that was the other thing too, was like, how do we make a living?
Yes.
And unlike one job, where I believe I had like several jobs, all sort of media related, like, okay, what can we do? What can we do? So I had to put the city stuff on hold, still did the state stuff, still practiced law, still taught school. But the one thing I run from here was what little free time I actually had left during the day was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did those conversations go? I assume, so you teach at University of Indianapolis, correct?
Yeah.
And Ivy Tech?
Yeah.
And you also work at WIBC? And then otherwise you're self-employed, I think,
Yeah.
beyond that. How did those conversations go with those employers?
Teaching was fine. We just, hey, as long as you're in class, we're good. IBC had to come off the air because of state and federal regulations.
Sure.
But I still stayed on there, doing the online stuff, doing the weekend public affairs radio program. Lawyering stayed fine, political, like I said, it was just basically I had to sort of put the one end of Market Street on hold for a while, but I still covered the other end of Market Street. Now, there was a question like, should you still do this even though you're a reporter? It's like, well, I'm not a true reporter, I'm more of a commentator. And everybody knows I've known for 20 years. So my positions haven't changed from day one, maybe modified a little bit.
Right.
But for the most part, everything pretty much stayed what it was, just that I didn't cover City Hall, and what little free time I had during the day was gone.
Well, one of the topics that I really didn't get to address when I was running for mayor, because it didn't have any sex appeal. I mean, we talked about infrastructure and crime, and then more infrastructure and more crime, and how it was seemingly destroying our community of Indianapolis. But what I wanted to talk about in some regards is how Indianapolis and the state of Indiana, the city and the state, are the same location, and how they might work together with the state police, with clearing snow, with infrastructure, with the Department of Transportation. Were there issues that you wanted to talk about that really got wiped off the map because they just didn't trip triggers out there?
Not necessarily, because early on, our platform was really simple. It's public safety, public works, and public trust. And our rule was, unless it had 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon separation, we're not talking about it. So crime was a big issue in some townships. Roads were a big issue in other towns. And then just sort of people just sort of losing faith and trust in their government was sort of an overarching umbrella type issue. Now, granted, you get some things that would pop up along the way, like education, workforce development. Like, yeah, we can talk about that because that fits into our window.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we stayed on
Yes.
message, because I've seen when politicians get distracted and it just spirals out of control. Like, no, we're staying on message.
Yeah, well, we stayed on that message. I just wish I could have added some, rounded the circle a little bit on what I thought was the future of Indianapolis and efficiencies and different things. But my campaign team, and I agree with them, that just wouldn't capture attention. But I think it was for the betterment of the city of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana for that matter.
I think a lot of it is too, is how do you sort of frame and sort of, adjust the issue accordingly? And what I would have done with that is like, hey, in order for Indianapolis to succeed, we have to work with the state of Indiana, because we're literally 4 blocks away from each other. Here's what we can do to work.
Yeah, well, this at the state level and the city level with different items, different issues going on is so non-productive.
Yeah.
And for the state to be saying something to Indianapolis, I mean, local, when I started in 1990, home rule was such an enormous issue, or it was a pillar. And
We're
right now,
we're all for home rule and local government until we're not.
exactly. But that seems to have grown in the last 30 years, and it's a shame. But going forward, and talking about the political realm, because we really enjoy talking politics. What do you see coming in the municipal election? Not only for Indianapolis, but we could have a potentially hot mayor race in Carmel.
Yeah.
And with Miles Nelson running against Sue Pinkham to succeed Mayor Brainerd. What do you see coming? Because we all know that the campaign is right now, today is June 15th, it's Father's Day weekend. But you've got 30 days to July 15th, 30 days to August 15th, and 30 days to September 15th. You've got 90 days really for the mayors and the council candidates, if you will, to campaign. And then you're really into election mode, because it's no longer
Early voting
election
starts
day.
in October.
Yeah, exactly. What do you, with your crystal ball, and we don't have one, but what do you foresee coming on in the next 90 days and into the fall campaign?
Well, I've always kind of jokingly said, Jefferson always said Republicans can win in Marion County, but you got to have the right type of Republican to win. You can't be doing all the Donald Trump stuff. I'm sure that people who are Trump supporters who watch this podcast, that's all fine and good. Keep living in dream fantasy world, particularly when it comes to Marion County.
Right.
Because Jefferson can self-fund, I think he's taken a big sort of albatross off the Republicans' neck, which has always been money, because you can't talk about your messaging and policy until you can raise money. Because he's got the cash to do it, he can focus on policy, focus on messaging, and talk to those moderate Democrats, those independent voters. That's what I'd be doing all summer long.
But it's a potential candidate. When you were thinking about this in November, did you take Cindy Carrasco's campaign and the governor in the Republican establishment being all for Cindy, and she still loses big?
But I would argue what county party didn't do it. County party didn't count on the straight ticket voting that was there, and also
Which is still there.
And also you didn't have an incumbent either, because Mears was appointed because of Terry Curry's passing away, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you also got to focus on that too, which is how do you break the straight ticket voting?
But there were, and you and I have talked about this, and I've talked to Rob Kendall about this, is if a mayor candidate who's a Republican in Marion County, you need a break. I mean, you need something like the riots of 2020. I think if the riots of 2020 had been in
21
or 20, if it would have happened in 23, I think a Republican would have a lot better opportunity. Yeah.
I think so, but the thing to keep in mind is you always play your hand you're dealt. So my thing was with Cindy Carrasco, Republicans didn't do, they didn't count the fact that straight ticket voting. So take straight ticket voting out, Cindy actually won the elections with straight ticket voting, which has always saved the Democrats. But I think this mayor's race was different because number one, you had Robin Shackelford sort of challenge Joe in a primary. If you take all the primary votes that were cast, Republican and Democrat, say that's the voting universe, Joe only got like 38% of the total vote, which means 62% of people wanted somebody else. And Joe also got 1,000 votes less in this primary than he did when he ran 4 years ago. So to me, the foundations are there, but you still got to carry the ball.
So let me ask both of you this question. Jefferson Shreve has the unique ability right now. He literally could buy up every available TV and radio commercial for September and October right now.
And cheap.
He could buy it cheap. Yes. But he could also block out any message that that our current mayor would want to put out there. Do you think that they're exploring that as an option?
I think so. I think they're exploring all options right now, because Jeff and I, we kind of spoke sort of after the primary, because we always had a really good relationship. And the good thing about this primary was nobody really attacked each other. It was a campaign of ideas and the whole 9 yards. And so I just kind of made that suggestion, like, hey, if you got the money, you may as well spend it and use it, because I think Jefferson's challenge is going to be, how does he raise money? Because everybody, you spent $2 million of your own money, so what do you need mine for?
Yeah, I think that's the case. And but the next 90 days, what I think I've told people that Jefferson hopefully was starting on May 10 to put together a campaign that we would all see, and it is so important to hit on those two issues of infrastructure and crime.
Yeah.
And the way of the future of the city of Indianapolis.
Because right now with our crime issue, I want to say either this week or last week, we hit 100 homicides, and the year's not even halfway over. Yeah.
Well, I was heartened by an IBJ article and I'm not sure if Mickey Shuey wrote it or not, but someone from the IBJ wrote a nice article about the campaign teams of the mayor and Jefferson Shreve. And I was really impressed with the names of the individuals and the polling ability, if you will, the money to spend on polling that Shreve's team actually has, and the personnel is outstanding. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing the campaign coming to life.
Yeah, because they're gonna, like I said, you're running uphill, but I think it's a little bit less of an inclined plane than what you had, because it's, like I said, every election is sort of different, and you're also kind of fighting the last war,
Right.
the last war too. But I think if Jefferson can rate those independent voters, those moderate Democrats, he's got a shot.
And he's got to be fearless too. He's got to ask the questions of where, for instance, with the riots of 2020, Mayor Hogg said, what would you have done different? Now that this had occurred, and if we had another riot, if we had another crisis, what would you do different?
Yeah.
Or would you do the same? I think it's a legitimate question. Where were you? And if we have this situation again, are you happy with the leadership that you brought to the situation? Was IMPD spot on with it? And what can we expect next time? Because there will be a next crisis.
Yeah, which is also why I think it's interesting the mayor's hitting the gun issue now, even though technically the gun problem was actually worse before permitless carry kind of came in.
Right. It's a straw man.
Yeah.
It's an issue that he's kind of created.
Yeah, and every time I check my Facebook feed, there's always a photo, particularly this time of year, mayor announces new anti-crime initiative. It's like, oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah.
Again.
Now, my wife asked this question last night. We were watching the news and she goes, all right, so the council's going through all this. Are they just wasting money and time?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of what I told her. I'm like, yeah, they can't do anything about this, and it's a false flag.
Yeah.
So if they want to campaign, it's like, hey, look, we're trying to crack down on guns, but that evil legislature won't let us do it. Like, well, yeah, but there's still some things you can do to go after the illegal underground gun trade.
Sure, but it doesn't have the enormity of what they're trying to do. And it's just interesting.
It's like Meridian Street getting fixed these days. Wow, it must be an election year.
Right. And I think it's Cindy Crosco had Mayor Holcomb, or Governor Holcomb, as a real supporter for her campaign, along with the Republican establishment in Indianapolis. I wonder if Jefferson Shreve has gone to Eric Holcomb, governor of the state of Indiana, and said, I need your help. And I need your financing, regardless of people thinking that I can self-fund. We need an expression of support from the state Republican establishment. Who knows?
Yeah.
So let me ask, I know in the last couple of weeks, there's been a proposal of the state police policing downtown proper and taking that over from IMPD. Does that have legs, or was that just
it's
somebody
more
talking out loud?
It's more talk, more people kind of just talking and thinking out
Okay.
loud and sort of throwing everything into the.
I think it's a campaign stunt. I think that the idea of the city of Indianapolis And it's an age-old, I'm not sure if it's a part of the Indiana code, but the idea Indianapolis has to ask for help rather than the state saying they're going to help. And you just kind of wish that the two entities, they work so well with economic development and jobs. You just kind of wish that there was more of a partnership with the essence of governing, and meaning the idea of working with snow removal, with the Department of Transportation, with paving, and because the state of Indiana, it goes back to the riots with. I believe the state of Indiana should have stepped forward with the Indiana War Memorial Plaza. For goodness sakes, the state of Indiana owns Monument Circle. We have a footprint of properties in the state, in the city of Indianapolis, we being the state, that we could have played a much larger role in the riots of May of 2020. And seemingly we didn't, because we still see red paint on limestone downtown Indianapolis, and it didn't have to be that way.
No, that I agree wholeheartedly, because part of the backstory was the state couldn't send in the National Guard unless the city actually requested it. They sent it like, hey, you guys need the National Guard to help you out here. No one got back to them. And so what the state did was they said, okay, we're going to go protect our state property. So they sent it to the War Memorial and some other things. But the state had its hands tied by what it could possibly do. So the question is, why didn't anybody get back to the state of Indiana like, hey, we could use all the help we can get right now because this is getting out of control?
So we're dancing around the question. Is anybody ever going to directly ask the question, where were you on the nights of the riots and who was in charge?
There are freedom of information requests out right now. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Well,
Because now we're back.
but as well, on the state side, the state police could have shut off Monument Circle. And that those riots were focused on places where the media would have focus, that people could gather. And why wasn't Monument Circle shut off? Why wasn't the state house itself better protected? And why wasn't crowd management more a part of the solution that night with the city and the state? Because state police is state police, and it's for all 92 counties. Why? I'd really like somebody to answer that question.
We'll say when I talk to Doug Carter.
So Abdul, so you've dabbled now in politics. What is next for you?
Getting healthy.
Well, you're looking good. You were looking real great a month ago.
Yeah.
2 months ago. So
Basically ended up in the hospital. You know the story. Was having trouble breathing. It was getting really weird. Like my brother had taken to the emergency room. We're like, you want to go to Escanaz? Like, nah, I'll need to deal with gunshot victims right now. So we went over to Hendricks County because we're on the west side of town. Like, you're like stroke level blood pressure. So we need to get this down. So we're managing all that. Went from like 260 last year to like 205 this year. Pant size from 44 to 36. Yes, I'm 36 in high school. Yes. Well, I thought I was cheating. I'm like, no, sweetie, no, not that. So we're getting our health back together. No, right now it's just take it easy, just relax this summer. Practice a lot. We get done with the podcast. Got to drive up to Crown Point and take care of a couple legal matters, and just take it easy this summer. And then next year, get ready for presidential, gubernatorial, state house, congressional, all that fun stuff. We love so dearly.
all right. So now that you're back to being able to make predictions on such things, what do you foresee for municipal races coming up this year, and then presidential and gubernatorial races next year?
I still give the mayor's race to Joe right now, only because Joe's the incumbent. And then we haven't really seen Jefferson unveil his campaign strategy yet. But I put Joe by head. Carmel's going to be interesting because once again, Hamilton County is changing. If you can get thoughtful conservative Democrats, almost would have been that Evan Bayh mode. I think they've got a shot because once again, it's an open seat. Sue Finkham, former chairwoman. I think the odds favor her, but you still want to keep an eye out on those Democrats. And I think Republicans went back to Zionsville mayor's race because that was more of an anti-incumbent mayor than a Democrat Republican.
Right.
Because the Republicans kept all the council
Mhm.
seats.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm looking at. Those are my municipal predictions.
Right.
Next year, it remains to be seen.
So John Stair is interesting in Zionsville. I had no idea he was interested in politics. Former news anchor at Channel 13.
Well, his experience with the Parks Board in Zionsville and Little League Baseball is outstanding in Zionsville, and it's an enclave. I mean, it's a very, very tight community. And he told me that experience just really felt good that he could be a part of the future of the city of Zionsville.
Nice.
And he'll be a very good mayor, no question about it.
And by the way, the nice thing about Cafe Audrey is they get really great Diet Coke.
Yeah. So 2024, who is the Republican nominee for president? For that matter, is the Republican nominee for governor in Indiana, and how do you see all that sorting itself out?
I don't see Donald Trump as the nominee, because I think Trump is convicted, found guilty, if he goes to trial, because people say he didn't violate the Presidential Records Act. Well, he wasn't charged with violating the Presidential Records Act. He was charged with violating the Espionage Act, which says these documents do not belong to you; they belong to the federal government. And unlike Hillary Clinton or Mike Pence, for that matter, when they found out they had him, or President Biden, they gave him back. Like, oops, our bad. The Justice Department took like 18 months to get the stuff back. Then had to subpoena. Then you're telling your lawyers one thing, and it's written down, and lawyers violate the attorney-client privilege. It's just, I don't see Trump as a nominee. If it is, it's going to be 1974 all over again. It's going to be a bloodbath for Republicans. Period. So that remains to be seen. Gubernatorial wise, right now, I give it to Suzanne Crouch, because the more Republicans get in, you got Mike Braun in, Eric Doden in, Curtis Hill might get in, a couple other people. If you think about it, Republicans, the establishment, as our good friend Rob Kendall likes to call it, is about 40% of the Republican primary vote. Go back to 2010, when you had Dan Coates on the ticket, and 2012, when you had Dick Lugar and Richard Murdoch on the ticket. Dick Lugar got 40% of the vote. Dan Coates got 40% of the vote. They're both considered the establishment candidates. So that's why I think by that logic, I say Suzanne Crouch probably walks about 40-45% of the vote. But you don't need the morality in the primary, you just need a plurality to win, not a majority. So that's why I think the odds favor Suzanne Crouch right now.
Okay.
But then again,
There'll be a lot of twists and turns.
yeah, but anything can happen between now and then.
Yeah,
That long rumor of Congressman Greg Pence, running for lieutenant governor with Suzanne. Does she name him before the convention? And, you know, obviously Micah Beckwith is a candidate for lieutenant governor. The idea of Mike Braun, who had a very good run for U.S. senators, giving up a U.S. Senate seat to run for governor.
But Mike's always been more of an executive anyway.
Mhm.
So the legislature,
Yeah,
he's never really been.
it will be very interesting. Less than a year now.
yeah.
So only time will tell.
So thank you, my friend.
Hey,
Thank you for coming in. Let me throw our slide back up here. You've been watching Merritt in the Morning with your hosts Jim Merritt and Brad Klopfenstein. Thank you to Alpsbrow Beer for being one of our sponsors. Look for them tonight.
And that has Diet Coke.
It does have Diet Coke. We're doing this at 9:30 in the morning. It's a little early, but you'll be able to pick up Alpsbrow tonight at the Lawrence Farmers Market.
Right.
Thank you once again to Cafe Audrey, open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. They're at beautiful Fort Harrison here in the heart of Lawrence. Also open for dinner now, Wednesdays through Saturdays. And thank you to Tamala Jones, owner, for sitting down with us just a little bit ago, talking about the history of this. So tune in 2 weeks for episode number 9. Do we know who our guest is going to be yet?
No, but something exciting.
Of course it will be. It will be somebody exciting. So thank you all. Remember, you don't get to see the top of this just the way we have this, but work hard and be nice.
Don't be a jerk.
Exactly. So thank you all for watching.